866.
Number one, Aramco, ACWA Power, Saudi Arabian Airlines, Ma'aden, and ENOWA, which is a water and energy firm based in Neom, signed non-binding MOUs. You know how we love non-binding MOUs, Lucian, to become the first members of the Middle East and North Africa Regional Voluntary Carbon Market, which the Public Investment Fund launched last year in cooperation with the Saudi Stock Exchange. PIF said further partners on both the demand and supply side will be onboarded in the coming months ahead of an introductory round of auctions in the fourth quarter of 2022.
Yeah, this is all part of the Saudi effort to achieve net zero by 2060. Very cool. I mean, it is a non-binding MOU, but it is progress in an announcement that was made last year, and would be the first in the Middle East. It's definitely progress in the right direction. I don't know much about this. I don't know much about anything, but this is it'll be cool to watch the space here because this is cool, and it is the PIF and the two biggest companies in Saudi Arabia, so very interesting.
I think this, for me, this is the equivalent of planting your flag on the moon. So that's an overstatement. With the expectation that one day you'll colonize the moon. Mm-hmm. This is very early stages. I love that they've called it Middle East and North Africa Regional Voluntary Carbon Market, because the fact is carbon markets have grown rapidly. I mean, there's and I think there's more than, as of last November, over 1 billion in terms of carbon credits have been traded, and that's expected to grow 15 times. This is in terms of people talking about voluntary carbon markets. The issue is how to value it, how to keep people. Essentially, you have different guidelines and different things over different voluntary carbon markets, why some work and some don't. There is actually a UN-backed group called the Voluntary Carbon Markets Integrity Initiative, which aims to ensure companies aren't using credits to avoid reducing their own emissions and aren't making claims that mislead the public. The group will issue guidance for companies to test this spring before finalizing it in time for COP27 in Egypt later this year. So what I'm saying is I think it's smart for the Saudis. The Saudis, you can see their minds turning, which is why they named it what they did. Let's be the first to set up the structure for a region-wide carbon market, voluntary carbon market, and we'll fill in the details later. So in that regard, I think it's forward-leaning. In reality, it's nothing right now, as we said. This a non-binding MOU. I'm not. So these are companies that are willing to be part of it, but we have to put some meat on this bone, and I think that will come. But I think it's intriguing. When I saw this, the first thing I said that's very Emirati of the Saudis, in the sense of sort of being ahead of the curve and planting a flag early on something. So my hope is this actually comes to pass and it becomes a viable carbon market. And the way if that's going to happen is they're going to have to put some binding regulations and operational guidelines to it. And then they'll start, as they say, onboarding demand and supply side, and maybe it becomes a real market.
That's such a good point about the MENA VCM. I mean, and the planting of the flags just in the future, in hopes that maybe the UAE and Qatar, they end up joining and say, okay, well, this is the MENA VCM. We're going to get onto this exchange, and the Saudis are the home to it. I also think it's interesting that the companies that are on this, it's not just Saudi Aramco, the biggest company, obviously, but Saudi Airlines. The airline industry is a huge polluter, obviously, but it's quite essential. ACWA Power, ACWA Power. So it's cool. It's sort of all the big players. It's a big promise. I mean, you and I have a non-binding MOU to play golf at some point soon, and it's just what does it mean? But we both signed it. But it's just very interesting. It is very Emirati in its aspirational nature, and it's sort of forward looking in that way.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It'd be very cool if it came to pass and became a real thing. And but we have, as I said, there's voluntary carbon markets everywhere, and they're exploding. Some of them are, there's, especially the agricultural-based one, where trees are having problems actually properly valuing things and people making claims. There's a huge one in Australia that's in turmoil. There's a large one in the U.S. that's in turmoil. This may be different. It's not necessarily going to be agricultural claims or carbon capture as based in land or trees or that sort of thing. It'll be different. The issue is always for these things and carbon markets is, are you actually abating emissions or are you just transferring things? Mm-hmm. When you buy a carbon credit, is that in lieu of actually decarbonizing your own operations? And that's the challenge, because ultimately you have to decarbonize your own operations. But it doesn't change anything. I think this is a really interesting concept, and I think it's great for them to basically plant the flag and say, hey, we're going to do one from MENA, and we're starting it now, and we're going to build it out, and hopefully it'll be something that's of real value.
It's a mega VCM.
But you're right too, and you mentioned it. It's a good PR move too.
Yeah, if you're going to do it either way, if this is the future, start it now. Get the ball rolling, just get it going, and then you won't be behind when you need to do it, which is cool.
We're serious about our emissions and trying to abate emissions. So I mean, it's a good PR move. But again, it could be something real too.
Mm-hmm. Yallah number 2. Saudi Arabia plans to introduce 60 water projects worth 35 billion riyals, which is $9.3 billion, as the kingdom accelerates efforts to become the world's largest desal market. Once completed, the projects will nearly triple Saudi Arabia's desalination capacity to 7.5 million cubic meters of water a day by 2027, from 2.54 cubic meters of water per day in 2021. That's both a lot of money and a lot of water.
It is. That's impressive. What I like about this, though, is just it's the practical application. We're talking 60 water projects worth $9.3 billion. So what does that mean? So these ends up being public-private partnerships, which is so as an example, a case in point, just this January, the Saudi Water Partnerships Company is going to be part of all this, announced the groundbreaking of an $800 million independent water project, which is coming online. It's going to be 450,000 cubic meters of capacity. So this is an example of what those 60 might look. But the players in this one that was just announced are a French firm, Engie, and 2 Saudi groups, Nesma and ENOWA. So what you have is sort of 3 virtuous things. You have increased desal, so you increase your water capability and that sort of thing. You increase foreign investments, for example, in this case, Engie, and you increase participation in the private sector in Saudi Arabia. So all 3 things are let's take the last 2. Those are really important parts of what Vision 2030 is trying to do. And if, let's say you can replicate those 60, let's say you do something similar like this Al Rayas independent water project that Nesma, Engie, and ENOWA are part of. Let's say to some scale up or down, that's done with 60 other ones. That's awesome, because you will have induced further foreign investment, and you will have given access to private sector and to a significant investment opportunity. All good things.
And Saudi Arabia needs a lot of water as it diversifies away from oil, and all this growth is happening. I mean, they're building new cities everywhere. It's got to supply water. It doesn't rain a lot in Saudi Arabia. I mean, when it does, it pours. But so this is planning for growth, which is exciting for them.
It is, and it's the privatization. You're taking capital, you're taking public assets and privatizing them, which is again, moving it down to the private sector, and the private sector very often says, all right, we're being pushed out a little bit by PIF as everywhere, but PIF is saying we're doing this to start industries and sectors and get them going in order to move them onto you. This is an example of existing assets, significant water projects and that sort of thing, and tenders that we're going to try and move on to you, the private sector.
And just to add to that, we had David DeRoche on the show a few weeks ago. He was talking a little bit about the privatization of this defense industry. And he was essentially saying that this isn't like other privatization efforts going on where it's a big fire sale and it's just a rush to privatize. It's done, responsibly. People are taking their time. There are public-private partnerships too. And it's cool to see Saudi in a position getting ahead of it. I mean, because the other way to do it is like Russia did it and just everything's privatized right away. It's a rush to do it and people lose. So
the oligarchs win, but the people lose. You're right.
We're not recording the show on the 966 super yacht today. It has been seized.
Son of a bitch. I was so excited about my 966 super yacht. All right. Number 3. The Saudi Super League Golf will begin in June, and attention is now turning to the format and venue selected for its debut season. The upstart league has seen extensive rumor and speculation for several months. Live Golf International CEO Greg Norman announced that the league's 8-tournament series will run from June 9 to October 30th and will comprise 7 regular season events and a team championship grand finale match play.
I'm so glad they didn't just fold up shop when they were unable to attract any real top 100 PGA names. First of all, that was all the bad, wrong publicity to be drawing. It sort of was a fiasco. I'm glad they're just going ahead with this, getting it started, pushing the snowball off the cliff, demonstrating that they can organize tournaments like this and have really interesting golf and televise it and have sponsorships. It's a lot of work, and it's good to see them get it going. I'm, for one, I'm excited to watch more golf rather than less golf, which is always good. And who knows how this will grow in the future. I mean, if it does grow in the number of events and it starts to attract bigger names. Rome wasn't built in a day, although Greg Norman definitely tried. Very interesting. Richard, we didn't get our invites to participate, which is a little disappointing, but that's maybe they got lost in the mail. I don't know, but who knows?
I agree with you. It was a fiasco, and I don't know if I can lay at the Saudis' feet. They suffered from, in military terms, operational security, OPSEC, is paramount if you're trying to do anything with any kind of secrecy and when you watch this happen, and it all sort of came apart at that Pebble Beach tournament and where all the players got together, and at that point there had been no announcements. The league had not said it's going to do this or that. It was just a rumor. And the OPSEC, the operational security part, came in because they had interfaced with a bunch of players. So and Phil Mickelson in particular essentially used that in order to leverage grievances of his own. And so he was out there, and then when he was called out as being really out of line, he immediately sort of threw the Saudis under the bus. And again, if you're at home in Saudi Arabia and you're Greg Norman, you're watching this, you're really powerless because, again, there's been no announcements. I thought it was unfortunate. And, I've never been a big fan of Phil Mickelson. I'm less of a fan now. I thought it was pretty cynical and hypocritical what he did. But it doesn't change the fact, and you make a very good point, it doesn't change the fact that the league is a good idea. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't change the fact that the league is trying to target a deficiency, an entertainment deficiency, what you might call the unexploited inefficiency in terms of the PGA, and that's if they can put all this the sort of stumbling out of the gates aside, which I don't know is necessarily their fault, and just get on with it and do the work. There's some really fascinating things about this because let's face it. So the formats, I think the formats are really interesting. So their formats of these are going to be 48 players over 54 holes, no cut, both individual and four-man team format. All right, so when was the last time you watched 72 rounds of golf? When was the last time you watched golf on Thursday outside of the Masters or the British Open?
Pretty much never. That's when we record the 966.
Right. So that's a cool idea. Mm-hmm. This TPC Players Tournament, the lead group it got a little screwed up with weather, but the lead group went off on the last day at 4 p.m. So the play started at 7 a.m. All right, so that's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
How cool would it to have shotgun starts? 54
awesome.
holes and shotgun starts. And how cool would it be to have teams? I mean, you can do anything number with teams. And how cool would it have, it's like LeBron and KD for the All-Star game, drafting teams. I don't know if it'll be that. We have to remember that, in the 60s, the American Basketball Association was an upstart league. But they popularized the three-point shot, which defines the current game. They popularized the slam dunk contest. 4 of the 7 ABA teams eventually joined the NBA. The American Football League, again in the 60s, upstart league, they tried it before. I mean, they introduced the 2-point conversion, much more exciting style of play. Names on jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
The game clock on the stadium scoreboard. So prior to that, if you went to an NFL game, you had no idea what the game clock was. It wasn't even on the scoreboard. You wouldn't even, there was no names on jerseys. So, and then again, all 10 AFL teams joined the merger with the NFL in 1970. So there's a track record of upstart leagues with good ideas and better entertainment value of succeeding. And I'm telling you, it's going to be absolutely fascinating when in a year or two, when we have a Saudi Super League tournament with men and women,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to happen. And the Saudis, I hope they thumb their nose at everybody and say, "Yeah, this is what we're doing. What are you doing?" And wouldn't that be cool? If you had 48 people, so that's 12 teams. So 6 and 6, six teams of women, 6 teams of men. The women tee off from a different tee, and nobody's going to be worried about that, especially with the purses the size they will be. But shotgun start and maybe other things. Now, is that not entertaining?
The PGA is so anti-change. I mean, it's a league based on tradition, and I'd be so interested to ask Greg Norman what he might do differently. If he could just go back 5 months, would he target only a select number of players? Would he maybe spend more time hyping what you were just talking about, these sort of innovative new formats and all this interesting stuff? I mean, what's the most entertaining golf one can watch per year? It's the Ryder Cup. And part of it is because it's such a spectacle and it's very different, and the fans are drunk and yelling. I mean, there's so much to sort of take in versus just the exact same golf tournament every single year with mostly the same names. So I'd be really interested in that, to sort of see, like, maybe he has like a sort of, moratorium on his effort, because I feel like they're going ahead with it anyway. And, I wonder if he'd say, well, look, we're just targeting maybe 10 to 15 guys and we'll get everybody else to come, or maybe not later. But just like you mentioned, that's such a great point about was it the ABA?
Yeah.
This is innovative. And, I think part of the problem with the PGA Tour is it's just not innovative at all. It does not want to change it all. And the threat of this Saudi-backed Super League was that it was so cool and different and exciting. And the PGA said, wait a minute, we're really focused now on making sure people aren't hitting the ball too long off the tee, and so it did actually enact change in the PGA too. I mean, there's an increase in money to players who are attracting new fans via social media. I mean, it has already left its mark on the PGA, and they haven't even started their first tournament yet. So I think it's all good. I think people are now going to view Greg Norman's effort as a failure, but I don't know if they'll view it that way in 3 years, 4 years.
I agree, and that's one of the problems. Is the PGA was actually pretty quick on its feet, and I say that because the Super League came along and they immediately allied with the European Tour, now the DP Tour. They upped the purses, they changed the schedule a little bit. They responded, which is kudos to the PGA. But it doesn't change, and again, I think it was unfortunate how this all happened, because they sort of got smeared right out of the gate, and maybe I'm certain they overreached. But a lot of it, again, I think was operational security. If everyone had just shut up and not talked about or speculated, or in Phil Mickelson's case, used it as leverage to get something else that he wanted, you wouldn't have had such a mess. But like we're saying, it doesn't change the fact that it's a good idea, and it has entertainment value. And if they can just do the work and let it roll, it's quite possible that it becomes a very attractive thing. And always the proof for any sporting event is TV coverage. And if it's entertaining enough to get TV coverage and start becoming in revenue and then getting sponsorship revenue and that sort of thing, there you go. It's a real thing. And if you're talking 7, 8 events each season, they become almost a destination. They almost become like I can't wait for the next one. And what's the next one going to be? Is it going to be team women against team men? Is it going to be whatever it is, however you want to set it up? But I think it has merit, and I think I'd like to see it succeed because I think it could be really, really entertaining.
Mm-hmm. You can get in touch with us by emailing us at the966podcast@gmail.com or on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube. Richard, about 70% of the comments that we get are in response to our golf segments, and there are so many to go through. People talking smack about our takes on golf, which I truly love to read. I haven't even gotten through all of them yet, but this is just a popular topic. It's what people know about Saudi Arabia right now. And that's, what we try to do here with the 966 is just have a conversation about not just what's going on with Saudi Arabia now, but, what really matters to Saudi Arabia. And golf doesn't really matter that much to Saudi Arabia right now. And the fact that it was a Saudi-backed Super League, sort of made people jump to conclusions about it. And maybe those conclusions were a little bit outdated. But
of course,
one of these days we'll have a comment reading contest, and there's some good ones in there for sure.
I'm guessing I didn't make any friends with my Phil Mickelson comments.
I don't think we made a lot of friends with these golf segments, but people are tuning in. And it's good to hear any feedback and any comment any of you guys have, whatever it may be. Yallah number 4, Saudi Arabia's state oil company Aramco pledged to hike investments by around 50% this year as it reported a doubling in 2021 profits, Aramco benefited from a more than 50% surge in oil prices last year as increased COVID-19 vaccination rates and loosening restrictions resulted in demand outpacing supply. It rained money on Aramco all last year, and their profit reached $100 billion.
I don't have a lot to say about this other than Saudi Aramco is going to do what Saudi Aramco does, which is invest. And that's why it's in the position it is now. Mm-hmm. And this is, you don't see a doubling of, government wages, which is, again, is a sunk cost. It's not a smart way to use things. You don't see everyone gets a Lucid Air. I could go with that, but, that's not a smart use of money. What you see is, an investment in securing a whole range of energy, advances in their energy production and capability. And that's why Saudi Arabia is a pivotal player in energy markets across the globe. It's because they're responsible stewards of their assets.
And I think what doesn't get a ton of attention, a lot of this investment is going upstream, but Saudi Aramco has a venture capital arm, Saudi Aramco Energy Ventures, and they're investing in new clean tech. They know that by 2060 they're going to be net zero, and they also know that eventually the world isn't going to be running on oil as much as it does now. They're doing a lot with this, and so it is quite the windfall for Aramco, but they're investing so that they can have more capacity in a few years. They're investing to diversify their own assets. So you're right. They're not giving everybody a Lucid, although we are still awaiting delivery of our Lucid Air as part of our sponsorship here. But I guess another thing that may have gotten lost in the mail, but very interesting. Good for Aramco, and they will pay a dividend on that as well. So
yeah, they'll keep that up. And they paid a $75 billion dividend last year when they didn't, it was a down year. So it's just it's good corporate management. So kudos to Aramco. Number 5, Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Investment and the Jada Fund of Funds have teamed up to create a platform that will connect Saudi entrepreneurs with investors abroad, according to a report in The National. Catalyze Saudi will host a series of events, the first of which will take place this month in Jeddah and Riyadh under the theme of disruptive technology.
And Richard, in a few weeks, we'll have Amjad Ahmad, Saudi venture capitalist. He's not a venture capitalist, Saudi venture capitalist, but he is a venture capitalist in the space, joining us on the 966 to talk about entrepreneurship in the kingdom. This is a really meaningful, practical way for foreign investors to connect with the red hot entrepreneur space in Saudi Arabia. New companies are being formed all over the place, and some of these companies are IPOing in Saudi Arabia, and most of those IPOs are oversubscribed. So this is a very practical way to connect Saudi entrepreneurs with foreign money, and this is a real thing. This isn't just an announcement. This isn't just an MOU, non-binding. This is a real practical step that is being taken to get Saudi entrepreneurs to lift their new businesses off the ground. Really cool.
I can't wait for him to be on. We're going to learn a lot on that one. Yeah, venture capital funding in MENA startups surged to $2.6 billion in 2021. It's Saudi Arabia, and that basically the leading markets are Saudi, UAE, and Egypt. There's a tremendous number of things going on. This Jeddah fund of funds is not an unusual thing for a large investment firm to do. You want to get money into the hands of experts who actually know the sector. And so for example, in the same year that this Jeddah fund, I think it was established in 2019, the UAE Mubadala, one of their sovereign wealth funds, took $150 million and did sort of the same thing. The interesting thing is this Catalyze Saudi initiative, it sort of goes above and beyond and just placing funds, in acceptable and qualified venture capital firms. This is pretty neat. So it's inviting foreign investors and non-Saudi investors to come and meet some of these startups. It's quite an opportunity. And it speaks to, Saudi Arabia trying to tend to every aspect of its investment ecosystem and trying to really support this. I mean, they see this, as they say. I mean, part of the Vision 2030 is to increase the contribution of SMEs to GDP from current 21% to 35% by 2030, and this kind of thing, is a big part of it. So it's cool to see, and like I say, it's even beyond just here's money, giving money to smart VC investors. This is a little beyond that. Let's bring let's call a meeting and have a bunch of people come in and see all the new companies that are in disruptive technology, and maybe get some investment that way too. By the way, sorry to interrupt. One of the things that we'll be talking about when Ahmed Amjad is on, is he's part of a Global 500 investment group, which is U.S. based, which is looking at these investments in the region and in Saudi in particular. So this is an example of this Catalyze Saudi. That there's going to be people, and he's going to know all sorts of people. He may be there himself for this sort of thing. Very cool.
Just worth adding a shout out here. We've had just the coolest and most amazing guests on the 966. It really makes us a lot smarter, Richard, having a really great guest on each week. And we're talking about a wide range of issues. I mean, almost every industry, and we're all over the place with it in a good way. And all of these guests have been organized and booked and convinced to join the 966 by my colleague, Mr. Wilson here, who has worked really hard for it and reached into his probably the deepest pockets of contacts of Saudis in Washington. So he deserves a huge hat tip for that. Well done, Mr. Wilson. Seriously, good stuff.
Thank you. This has been one of and we make a good team because we cover all aspects of putting this together. By the way, putting this together is not easy. We had a full-time job. We were doing all sorts of stuff. And then we decided, hey, let's do the 966. It's another full-time job. But no, this is actually accessing my network and talking to people and getting to dive into all relationships and bringing them into this and seeing their response has been just tremendously rewarding. because almost uniformly people go, hey, I'd love to. That's really interesting. And when they hear it, they go, I like the format. And and when they walk away or after we've done it, they have almost uniformly said, that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. This is a lot of fun to do. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
So, but yes, well done, sir. I will move to the sixth and final Yallah today. Saudi Arabia is planning to raise its port occupancy rate to 70% by 2030. CNBC reported, citing the head of the Saudi Ports Authority. This comes as the transshipment rate at these Saudi ports grew by more than 35% in 2021, Omar bin Talal Hariri disclosed. Shipping and logistics, huge in the kingdom. That is ambitious. Very cool.
You know, I looked at this and I couldn't, it didn't... It didn't say what the current occupancy rate was, so we're going to raise it to 70% by 20. What is it now? I couldn't find that. If it's 28, that's pretty impressive. If it's 69, I don't know. But more to the serious point, I went back. There is such a thing as the World Bank has a global container port performance index. It's trying to understand sort of just Saudi ports, and there's 10 Saudi seaports. And this is interesting. So from this report, World Bank report, more than 4/5 of the global merchandise trade by volume are carried by sea, and approximately 35% of total volumes and over 60% of commercial value is shipped in containers. This is what this report says. The development of high-quality and efficient container port infrastructure is a key contributor to successful export-led strategies both in developing and developing countries. Developing and developed countries. So we're talking, like you say, you're talking about logistics, and you're talking about the $26 billion, transshipment road from, the east coast to the west coast in Saudi Arabia. We had other logistics just today. Why am I looking for it? But one of the interesting things about the World Bank report is they do a measure. They measure efficiency across the ports, and East Asian ports dominate. So of the top 50, almost the top one was Yokohama in Japan. Number 2 was King Abdullah Port in Saudi Arabia, which is at the King Abdullah Economic City on the Red Sea. King Abdullah Economic City, the future site of Lucid. But they go through, and the highest ranked European port was in 10th place in Spain. The only other in North America, in the Americas, the 25th port was in Mexico. And there's no other North American port in the top 50. Saudi Arabia had 4 of them in the top 100, essentially. King Abdullah Port was number 2. Jubail, number 21, Jubail in the eastern province on the Gulf, Jeddah, 53, and Dammam was 102. We'll give it in the top 100. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. So yes, logistics, and shipping is a big part of that.
Will Neom have a big port associated with it? We'd have to assume yes, maybe somewhere near the floating city.
Oxagon, right.
Oxagon, but... yeah, huge for them. Interesting data to add there, Richard. That's very fascinating. The 966 mega yacht is parked outside of Jeddah port right now. We're not paying the fee, so we're just floating out there. And I don't even know if we're tied down. We may just be wandering off. But speaking of wandering off,
since the 966 mega yacht is a little dinghy with oars, I don't think anybody's paying attention to it.
Richard, great discussion. Thank you so much. Again, follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen to us or watch us. It's all there. It was segmented out and everything. So follow us, subscribe to us, and give us a rating if you wouldn't mind. It really helps us a lot. Richard, thank you so much. What a great discussion.
Thank you, Lucian. Awesome. Always good. 32.
Always good. Back to our other full-time jobs.
Exactly.